As many of you know, I recently graduated from Taiwan University. I just got my bachelor's in business administration and commerce. Now, as I'm leaving my university for the very last time, I think that this is a good opportunity to talk about how I got here and why, at 34 years old, I am now graduating college. I know a lot of Taiwanese high school students are conflicted on whether they should take a year off or go straight into university, and I'm here to tell you that even if you took 8 years off and do what I did, your life would not be completely screwed up. So as I drive home, I'll tell the story about how I came to Taiwan and why I started university so late, and I will also share with you the top 3 ways that you can be successful in a Taiwanese university as well. Tainan University is not my first university. In fact, it is my 4th. And the reason that I went to so many universities and started studying so late will have to go back 25 years. When I was 9 years old, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and then she passed away shortly after my 10th birthday. And the next few years of my life were a little bit difficult for me. I started having problems immediately when I got into high school, and then on my 3rd year, I was so depressed that I just stopped going to school altogether. And so I never graduated high school. Instead, I got my GED, which in the United States is kind of like an equivalent diploma. A GED is still something you can go to college on in the United States. First, I attempted to go to a community college in North Carolina, but I kind of dropped out of that too. And then I went down to Florida and I found some work doing basically unskilled labor, but because I was able to just put in a lot of hours, I was still able to survive. And so for the next few years, I kind of just worked in the United States, and then I went backpacking with my friend. First we went to the UK, and then Asia. He went back home, and I kept on traveling. For the next 16 months, I kind of backpacked around the world. I was lucky enough to have some funds. Well, I don't know if lucky is the right word. My grandmother passed away. She left a little bit of money to my mother. Since my mother had already passed away, that went to me, and I used those funds to go backpacking. I did 2 backpacking trips, one 16-month trip around the world, which was mostly in Asia, and then I did another 6-month trip later, 3 months in Africa, and another 3 months in Europe. By the end of my second backpacking trip, I was doing a lot better mentally. I was much more in control of my life, and I felt like it was time for me to start making some long-term plans. So I went back to the U.S., and I was completely out of money. I borrowed $100 from my brother, and I went and joined him in the Ringling Circus. The wages were extremely low, but I got to spend some time with my brother, which was very nice. On my first trip to Nepal, I had fallen in love with the country and decided that I wanted to go to university there. So I went back to Florida. I went to a local college there, brushed up on my math skills, and then I joined a university in Nepal. Unfortunately, after getting to Nepal, I realized that I had been a bit misled on the university. The students at Kathmandu University feel intimidated by the institution, and so they are afraid to talk negatively about it when outside the university. So naturally, I chose that university due to all of the positive things that people were saying about it, only to find out that none of it was true when I got there. Well, except for the view, this is what Mount Everest looks like at sunset, and this photo was taken from my balcony. So after 1 semester, I quit that university, but then I was in a bit of a pickle. Going to Nepal and studying computer engineering was my 4-year plan, and when that fell through, I basically had no direction to my life, and I didn't know what my future was going to be. So I went back to Israel, where I have family, and I attempted to get a job. Although I have a citizenship and the complete legal right to work in Israel, it's still very difficult for me to find work because I don't speak the language. I am not fluent in Hebrew. So after a few unsuccessful tries in Israel, I found work in China online, and I went to go teach English there. air pollution in Hangzhou turned out to be too much for me to handle though. So again, after just a few months, my plan had fallen through and I was looking for somewhere else to go. Luckily, a friend that I'd met in Nepal was living in Taiwan, and he gave me a message saying, come sleep on his couch, I can stay as long as I want until I find out where I want to be. So then, with the money I'd saved in Hangzhou, I hopped on a train to Xiamen and took the boat to Jimen, flew to Kaohsiung, and there I spent the next 3 months sleeping on my friend's couch. At the time, American citizens could only have 30-day visas, so I had to go back and forth from Hong Kong once a month, which was a bit of a hassle and was starting to become quite expensive. I was enjoying myself, so I started studying Chinese at a Bushiban, and that allowed me to have a 6-month visa. Turns out Chinese isn't as intimidating as I had thought, and after a few months I decided that I would stay there, learn the language, and then try again to go to university here in Taiwan. So, after 2 years of studying at TLI, I then went to Kaohsiung University of Applied Sciences to start a degree in industrial engineering and management, which I later found out was one of the hardest programs in the school. This program was a Chinese language program. All of my classmates were Taiwanese, and most of the tests and books and everything else was all done in Chinese. It was way above my language level. Even if I could understand the professor, I could not read the test and not answer the questions. Since test scores are all that matters, I ended up getting very low grades there despite working very, very hard. Realizing that studying in Chinese was going to be too difficult for me, I then switched to an English program at Tainan University in Taoyuan. Unfortunately, I was not able to transfer all of my credits over from Gaoingda. Despite doing a full year at Gaoingda, when I started at Tainan University, I was still a freshman. I had 28 transferable credits, and 32 was the minimum to start as a sophomore. So, for the next 3 years, I worked hard, I got good grades, and I took all of the credits I needed to graduate. But because of the bureaucracy, despite having all of the credits I need, there was still no way to graduate after 3 years because 8 semesters is the requirement. So the next year was just wasted time where I went to 2 semesters for classes I didn't need and didn't want to take, but it was the only way that I could still graduate. That's something I'm not happy about, and it had made this past year very difficult for me, as there's a lot of things that I've been trying to do, and my time was being sucked up by university classes that I didn't want to go to. That resulted in this year having much lower grades, but because I had such high grades in my first 3 years, I still graduated at the top of my class. You know, I always try to make my videos positive, but this past year going to university is really something I've been a bit angry about, because as far as I could see, there's nothing I could do about it. I could either drop out and not graduate, or I could waste lots of time and money and graduate. So I chose to waste time and money, and now I have a piece of paper to show for it. Alright, so here it is. These are my top 3 things you should do in university in order to graduate. The first thing I recommend as a student is to never take the elevator. Universities in Taiwan all have nice outdoor staircases. There's absolutely no reason that young people should be lined up in front of the elevator. Go take the stairs and get some exercise. You'll be sitting on your butt most of the day. Stairs are an excellent way to keep your blood flowing and keep you in shape. This is not something that you should just do at school, but also in the MRT and anywhere else that has a nice staircase as well. My second bit of advice is that find the good toilet. Not all of the toilets in the university are equal. In my university, on the 5th floor of the administration building, the toilet paper in there is the softest. That's where all of the important guests go for meetings at the school, and that's where they hide the good toilet paper. If you want the softest stuff, you have to find the right bathroom. Now, because that's on the 5th floor, and most of my classes are on the 5th floor in a different building, that means that I would have to walk a total of 20 flights of stairs just to take a poop. That is well worth it, and some good exercise. My third bit of advice for how to do well in school here is to make yourself visible in the classroom. Teaching is hard work, and nothing is worse than when you're standing up facing the classroom and you ask a question and you're greeted by the sound of crickets. If the teacher asks a question and nobody gives an answer, you should speak up and just say something. It does not matter if you are right or wrong. What matters is that the teacher notices you and that you are engaging with the teacher in the lesson. By doing this, you will make your teacher's job much easier, and they will appreciate you for it. Whenever you're going to want leniency because you skipped a class to go to a waterfall or because you turn in your paper late, the teacher is going to recognize you as an important and integral member of the classroom and somebody who is serious about studying, whether you are or not. So it's important to make sure the teacher knows who you are and engage with them. Now, there are a few pros and a few cons to studying at university when you're older. The biggest pro is that for non-hard sciences, a lot of the stuff you will just already know. Many of your classes will be easier for you if you've already had some life experience. Although this is also a negative because it also means that you're getting less out of it. On the negative side, anything that requires you to just remember something, take a test, and then forget it will be a lot more difficult because your brain is less plastic as you get older. It's more difficult for you to instantly memorize things. And also because that kind of studying is bullshit, it will be more difficult for you to accept it when you're older. Unfortunately, you will still encounter a lot of that kind of studying. In my opinion, what you memorize is largely irrelevant. What matters is that you develop critical thinking skills and the ability to analyze situations, process information, and find out the right answers for yourself. There is very little chance that something you memorize now will suddenly become useful later. What matters is your ability to think and act on it. There are other downsides to studying when you're older as well. One is that the labor you put in pre-college is not worth as much as the labor you put in past college. So there is some opportunity cost to the years of work you put in before university compared to those that you do after. However, you could also save yourself a lot of time, money, and energy because you may not know exactly what you want to study or where you want to live when immediately after high school. I definitely recommend for everyone, if you have the opportunity and the financial resources, to take at least a year off after high school before going directly into college, but 8 years is probably a little bit more than is necessary. 2 years is probably a good amount as long as you spend it wisely by developing a hobby and finding out what you like to do. What is your opinion about university and when you should start it? Please let me know in the comments. I am very keen to hear what other people's ideas and experiences are. Starting in July, I will have more free time, and that's when I will start driving around the island, and you will start to see more of the old content you used to see from me, such as finding new waterfalls and adding new places to maps that you've never seen before. You can also look forward to new features coming out on the website, and also expanded lines on YouTube where I'll be developing a lot more content. If you want to stay tuned, be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you get the notification when I post new videos. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Now all I need is a hat.